The mortgage crisis has large implications and is not just limited to houses and neighborhoods. When foreclosures occur within a condo association, all residents share the burden. But should they? Joining us for a discussion on condo foreclosure reform is State Representative Julio Robaina, Republican, representing District 117 in Miami-Dade County. Julio Robaina, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Talk to me a little bit about your ideas for reforming foreclosures for condos.
Well, let's say that the credit goes to the people of Florida, people of Miami-Dade County that have given me the ideas. And this is an issue where everyone's working together. I have, for the first time, attorneys that represent associations, the property management companies, the boards of directors, and the unit owners that are understanding what a crisis we're in. And basically what they want to do is they want to force the banking industry, which has been bailed out with a lot of stimulus money. We call it bailout money from the federal government. We want to bring them to the table to help who? The people that are right now either in a foreclosure proceeding or possibly just weeks or months away from falling into one. And let me just explain to you current law and why it is that we're having such a problem. In Florida, if you live in a condo or a homeowner association, you do not get paid, meaning the association doesn't get its money till after the foreclosure proceeding. That means that knowing the backup in the courts, it's taken anywhere from 18 months to 2 years before these boards see those maintenance fees that are due to them when a property has gone into foreclosure. And all that the banking industry is responsible for is 1% or 6 months of what is owed the association. So that means if it's for 2 years an association hasn't gotten its money from the maintenance fees, guess who absorbs the rest of the cost? The other unit owners that are living there, and that's creating a huge problem. And what we're trying to do through legislation is force the banks to pay up front, minimum of 6 months up front within 30 days of securing or starting the foreclosure proceedings. There's also a lot of other problems that we're dealing with. We're working with our congressional delegation that has to do with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They put down these restrictions that basically applies only to Florida, that if you live in a condo and you have more than 15% of foreclosures, you're not going to secure any loans. That is correct.
Not secure loans in that building?
In that particular building. They will not basically support any
Now, why is this just Florida? Is it because Florida is suffering more acutely from condo foreclosures?
Correctly. We call it a personal attack on the sales and future of condo sales in Florida, and we think that we're making some headway with our congressional delegation, having Washington understand what it is that they're doing to the condo market. So we're going through all these crises in economics, and that every property is upside down, but now you add this stipulation from Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, you're not going to be able to sell what you have left. Some of the other things that we're addressing, as you know, in Florida, there's a lot of people that have investment property in condos. What is happening is you have tenants that live in these associations, in these units, and they are paying the landlords. But the landlords, knowing that they're going to walk away from the property because they're upside down, they're taking that tenant's payment but are refusing to pay the association's maintenance fees. That's when you see these stories where they cut off the power,
right.
No water. And what we want to do in law is give the board the power to go to the unit owner and say, look, it's been 30 days, we haven't been paid by your tenant, by your landlord, so we now are going to require you to write 2 checks. You're going to pay us our portion and pay the remainder to your landlord. And that's part of the ideas in legislation. And quickly, a couple other ones are deny access to the common elements. So if you don't pay, there's a lot of people out there that do have the money but are refusing to pay. That means you won't have access to your pool or the golf course or the tennis courts. That's also something that's being considered. And of course, finally, creating what we call a change in the law so that these banks have to foreclose quickly and, more importantly, pay what is due the association.
But how can you require a quick end to a bankruptcy proceeding? Because a condo might be just one particular asset out of many.
The problem is that we're getting cases that are being brought to our attention, the legislature, where many times banks will purposely ask for a continuance on these cases, and it may have been settled in 6 months or less than a year, but they're just letting it go on and on and on. Why? It's very simple. They do not want to inherit any more property. They're overloaded. We understand the banks are overloaded, and once they take possession of the property, they now have to make those maintenance payments and whatever other special assessment payments are out there. We understand their crisis and their hardship, but this boils down to you and me and people that pay taxes have bailed out a banking industry that has a lot of blame in this whole problem that we have. For years, you know, they were qualifying everybody for these mortgages.
No doubt about it. What about the issue of the utilities? There are a few of those horror stories, and one would like to believe that they're very isolated cases where, because there are certain bankruptcies in one building, the power has been taken out or the water is turned off. What about dealing with utilities to not shut everybody out in the building?
We have been working on a case-by-case basis. My office is what I call Grand Central Station for condo and HOA problems, although it's regulated through the state on the condo side. What we do is we will reach out to Florida Power and Light, and they will extend some courtesies and some payment plans to these buildings, these associations, and also water, because there's also some life-threatening issues, but it can only go so far. If they break the agreement on the payment plan, as you can tell, if you've read about it and seen it in the news, that they will close these buildings down. And then there's the part of the maintenance. If you're not properly maintaining the building, well, the city or the county can come in there, their code enforcement division, and because of an unsafe structure, or maybe the elevators aren't working, or they have a rodent problem, whatever it is, or they're not keeping up on maintenance, they have the power to close down the building, and they've done it in several occasions, where now you've got people that have to continue to pay their mortgage and their taxes and maintenance fees. Besides that, now they have to go out and find another location. So the utilities per se, are willing to cooperate, but only to a certain level, because like anybody else, they're a private sector business and they need to be paid. And they'll make arrangements, but they can't go on for a long period of time without being paid.
You know, there's no question there's a huge learning curve for everybody here. And the condo association industry, the condo industry has taken an enormous hit in Florida. I can't help but think that the banks are fighting you tooth and nail on this.
Tooth and nail. We have a big war with the banking industry. And I want to be very clear. We're not saying that all the banks are doing this, but there's a large number of banks that are the ones that basically really exposed themselves to, I guess, too many loans, and they have too many mortgages out there that are now coming back in the form of a foreclosure. Those are the ones that are being very hesitant. But again, my problem with that is you took our money, meaning you took tax dollars, you're being bailed out, and you're not willing to come to the table and work with us at this time. Remember, they need to be doing everything they can to create loan modifications for people. They need to be helping those that are maybe just a payment away from falling into foreclosure. And they have the ability. I negotiated with them during Tallahassee's last session, which you were present many times, and they would negotiate for one day, and then they would go away and say, no, we're not going to negotiate at all. I don't think that's negotiating fairly and in the best interest of the people who are helping them through their bailout, which is the consumers and the people of Florida.
And unquestionably, you would think that they want to remain lenders and not be landlords, because ending up with the property isn't an ideal situation for them either.
That's correct. But we had a provision in our bill, which, by the way, this piece of legislation, which we're getting ready to file again, and I'm asking everybody to contact me because I need support. As you know, Tallahassee, you have to do a grassroots effort to get people to call in, because we are fighting a very powerful industry called the banking industry. But, you know, we have these opportunities to do these things at this point, but I need the support of individuals to call in. The problem that we're having, again, is they don't want to go ahead and take in all that property.
Just very quickly, is the Miami-Dade County delegation on board with you on this?
100%. Huge problem in Miami-Dade County.
That's important. We're out of time. I'd like to thank State Representative Julio Robaina for joining us.